And welcome back to the Tigers Times. That's right. I think we're going to name it that. Probably not. Logo right here. Bam. Okay. Let's talk about the Tigers because we haven't talked about them in a couple weeks. The Detroit Tigers are currently sitting at 55-60. They are a winning team at home and a losing team on the road. It's not crazy. That's kind of how it should be. One major thing they did at the trade deadline is they traded Daniel Norris, the Van Man. I remember when we acquired him from the Blue Jays and was excited about him. Unfortunately, his career was kind of riddled with a lot of injuries. Great guy, nothing wrong with that. I wouldn't say anything about the man personally, but as a baseball player in the city, he played 460 innings in 7 years. That doesn't equate to the starting pitcher we thought we were getting. He became a decent piece in the bullpen later on, but that was well after the point that we needed him 7 years ago. We traded him to the Brewers, and in return we got a 22-year-old Reese Olson who had a decent year in A-ball in Wisconsin and is looking to be promoted to the Double-A Erie team for the Tigers. Hey, maybe we'll see him in a couple of years. That's the problem with these kind of trades is you get a guy like that who certainly has a upward trajectory, but is his trajectory to the major leagues? Who knows? Other news while we were out, not talking about the Tigers lately because we've been talking a lot of Red Wings and Pistons. Eric Haas, Rookie of the Month for July. He had 9 home runs, 29 ribbies, and he did that in 23 games. He had a 965 on base percentage plus slugging. Was it 945? I think it was 945 actually, which is pretty solid. He's a 28-year-old rookie. That's always something that people kind of have a weird time remembering with baseball, is that unlike most sports, rookies can come out at any age, and just sometimes it takes a long time to get through the leagues, get through Double-A, Triple-A, and onto a major league team and actually spend enough time to get consideration. So a 28-year-old rookie is not unheard of if you're new to how baseball works. So another interesting thing about the Tigers. Let's talk about the offseason. It's very important that you know that Chris Ilitch, the owner of the team, said in a press conference that he was looking to spend money in the offseason. He thinks it's time to start going after big-time people, going after people who command that money. And it also sounds like it's time to stop being bad. We're done being a bottom feeder. Even a team right now who doesn't necessarily have a ton of not everyone's playing, not everyone's, we're not worried so much about winning right now. We're still doing a pretty good job. We're taking series here and there. We're playing 500 ball, and you just start adding to that. So the one big name that's been circulating is Carlos Correa, who currently plays for the Astros. He played for AJ Hinch, so you got a good connection there. And I think we know that the time for the people who played for the Astros on the cheating team, they're going to probably start looking for other places to play. You don't necessarily have the thickest skin in the players down there, and I think it's easier for them to just leave, go somewhere else, let it dissipate and be just Houston's problem, whoever stays. If Altuve is the only man left holding the ball, that's probably how that's going to go. When you start talking about other people who are available this offseason, you have currently a pretty large list of guys that's worth talking about. You've got Corey Seager and Chris Bryant and Trevor Story and Zach Greinke and Freddie Freeman, Max Scherzer, Javier Baez, Marcus Stroman, and Anthony Rizzo. Now, 3 of those guys are Cubs, or were Cubs until the deadline, and they're all not under contract. I would expect that the teams they went to, Rizzo is now playing for, I think Rizzo's playing for the Yankees, or is it Chris Bryant's playing for the Yankees? One of them's playing for the Yankees, one of them's playing for the Giants. Either way, they're both playing well. I think Rizzo may have just gotten hurt, actually. But there doesn't seem to be any reason why they wouldn't want to re-sign those two guys. Both the Giants and the Yankees are teams that perennial winners. They love to be able to sign these guys and keep them, and they have good organizations. So it's hard to argue with that. Javier Baez, he's a mystical man. Yeah, you don't know if he's going to re-sign with the Mets, and the Mets are such a weird organization. They lose people, they win, they go out and spend big, they get a new owner, things go crazy for them all the time. There's nothing normal about the Mets. So where I would anticipate some of these guys don't make it to free agency as it is right now, I also don't know if I want Javier Baez. He's a good player, but is he better than? Like, that's the question. I think if you get Carlos Correa, your team is much better at a position you have to have. Your shortstop has to be a absolute world beater. You need to have a guy who knows what he's doing, who could command the field and also command the the clubhouse, be able to be a leader. And I think with AJ Hinch, Carlos Correa is that guy. I think without him, he's not as much. And you see that, it's not that Houston's bad. Houston's good. They're going to make the playoffs. They'll be fine. It's that this cloud is still hanging over them, and eventually it's going to get to them. There's going to be a high-pressure situation in the playoffs where they're in front of the opponent's crowd and they're getting heckled and things are going wrong, and that's how it snowballs for those kind of teams. So I don't expect them to win the World Series this year, is what I would say. And now let's talk about the Red Wings, because they made a little bit of news as well. You can only speculate as to free agents with the Tigers, and whether or not they need pitching is completely up in the air. I mean, they have so many young arms coming up. It's very hard to know anymore whether or not they need to go out and get a highly paid guy like a Marcus Stroman, who, he seems to he can play everywhere, and he seems to be happy to be kind of a nomad now. But do you need him? Is he better than what's coming in the pipeline? Do you have to wait a year? Is everything going to be okay, or do you need him as a stopgap? That becomes the question. Stuff like that. But back to the Red Wings. The Red Wings signed Jakub Vrana, 3 years at $5.25 million annual. He was a point-a-game player for the Red Wings. 11 games, 8 goals, 3 assists. That's a small sample size, but at the same time, it's hard to get upset about that. Certainly, you see a guy who scores a point a game, and you say, well, if you do that over a season, you're worth probably more than $5.25 million. I think this is the right number. It was nice that we didn't go to arbitration with him, especially because you just received him for the Mantha trade, and it doesn't look great if you can't come to a number up with guys who you just acquired. That's not a good look for the front office. We're still waiting on Ernie to finish his deal, or go to arbitration. But we'll see how that goes. But I think this is the right play. I think it's the right price. I think everyone's happy with that. It's not. I think the initial offer was somewhere in the mid threes for Vrana, and that's low. I mean, you don't want to lowball the guy. Look, when you're not dealing with the player directly, if you're dealing with lawyers, you're dealing with people who are negotiators, you can lowball a little bit and be like, hey, we know that's a starting price. Let's go from there. We're obviously not. That's not our final offer. But sometimes when that number gets out and players hear about it, they can be offended, and I don't entirely blame them for that. So good to have him locked up for 3 years. I would assume that he is a huge piece for the Red Wings going forward. And honestly, if he's as good as he was for 11 games, even if he's just close to that good, that'll be good enough. So with that, I will bid you adieu. We are getting closer and closer to football season, and I will have to talk Lions at some point. They are an enigma. But that being said, have an enjoyable rest of your week, and I will try to get one of these out on the weekend talking about the future if any good news comes our way. Take care.